It's because I want to date you, Jack. That's the reasoning.
Oh,
Oh, you should have.
Parker, step aside. I want to.
Everyone wants a piece of him.
Oh,
Sorry, guys. I already got myself my new lover. Her name is Sledgy.
Oh,
I love.
Sledgy.
Yeah,
She sounds like a hunk.
Sledgy the Hammer?
Yeah, Sledgy the Hammer.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Hi guys, welcome to Doomsday Cast. That's what we call this, right?
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, I got it right. But it honestly, I think it's a really cool design. It's something that like I can't say that it hasn't been done before, but I don't think it's ever been done in colorless.
Yeah, fair. I mean, like, activated abilities are all over. There's so many different colors that support it, but this is
100%.
this is kind of the first commander in colorless that has ever done this.
And we're at a time in Magic where power creep has allowed to where like literally like you could build just any colorless commander and it's semi-effective. Like the support for colorless, especially after like Commander Masters and some of the more recent sets and stuff, have been just crazy. Also, Modern Horizons 3, like
Modern
wow.
Horizons really added a lot.
You're gonna see a lot of cards from Modern Horizons in this deck. Because even though there's not a lot of like Eldrazi stuff, there's definitely some Eldrazi stuff, and a lot of the stuff is just general colorless good stuff.
I mean, to be fair, it's colorless. It's pretty hard to avoid Eldrazi and artifacts. Like,
Like that's the two things you can do with colorless. Yeah, but so our commander is Marvin, Murderous Mimic. He has all activated abilities of creatures you control that don't have the same name as him, and he's 2/2 for 2. So technically, it's a bear.
Damn, you're right.
I didn't think about that, but you're right.
I know. It's a bear deck. I'm sorry, guys. That's just how it is.
When you're right, you're right. Who would win?
You're right.
A bear that lived its whole life in nature, fighting to survive? A goofy little toy.
Honestly, a goofy little toy. Because with this deck, shameless segue, we're doing a very one of the commanders that I was very fascinated with, but I never ended up like assembling anything for. Back in the day was Mercil the Pretender, who has a similar effect to Marvin, and the idea of the deck is to just build a toolbox of all different abilities that you can put onto Marvin, and then like just kind of like good stuff your way till the end. Although in this deck, I do have a couple of like technical win cons that we could use.
Well, I mean, Marvin is very interesting. I'd say we can start with the like win cons and combos and stuff because those are like the most, I guess, important.
I mean, this is obviously just a commander who's meant to try and combo. Let's be straight up.
I mean, honestly, I think he was built for combo.
Mm-hmm.
But my preferred way is I think the coolest thing that you get with Marvin is the fact that you can have all of these abilities that on their own are really good, but together they literally just go infinite with the kitchen sink. Like let's take Kozilek's Channeler and Pillipala for a second. Kozilek's Channeler is 5 mana for a 4/4 Eldrazi that says tap, add 2 to your mana pool, and then Pillipala. Like that's straight up infinite mana. That's not a hard combo to assemble because one of the pieces is in your command zone. And second of all, they're just good abilities to have on him that you're already going to want to have. So even if you don't have your other combo piece, they're not dead in your hand or on the battlefield.
Yeah, so what are these pieces, huh? What do they do?
What do they do? All right.
Well, we
so
got Kozilek's Channeler.
All you gotta do is use the Kozilek Channeler ability on Marvin. You tap him, you get 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Then you use the Pillipala's ability on Marvin to untap him and then add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And then we just keep doing this until we've netted 420,069 gajillion mana, however much you want.
A Google.
And then we can just and then we just can do a lot of different stuff. I think that the one of the most interesting things, surprise, surprise, walking ballista, but not how you would expect it, because walking ballista's main abilities that you're using are activated abilities.
Oh,
Yeah. Just in case anyone doesn't know what activated abilities are, it's just anything that has a colon. That's the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah, it's an ability on a creature or an artifact or an enchantment or anything that, like, any permanent can have an activated ability, and as long as it requires you to do something and then it has an effect, that's an activated ability.
So, like, on Walking Ballista, you can the first ability, not so much.
The first ability is tap 4 and put a +1/+1 counter on Walking Ballista. First of all, great mana sink. Regardless of whether or not we have our combo pieces even, if we have spare mana, just putting +1/+1 counters onto Marvin is a good thing because our secondary win con is Voltron. Like, there's like insane Voltron synergies with Marvin. Like, I'll get into that in just a second. But the second ability is remove a +1/+1 counter from Walking Ballista. It deals 1 damage to any target. So if you have however many +1/+1 counters on Marvin, you can just continue to just ping people, destroy things, kill someone outright if you have like that infinite mana and stuff. Like, you pretty much cannot go wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen Walking Ballista combo with so many things.
Oh, Walking Ballista combos are insane. There's
my favorite part about this is that it isn't a combo. It's just a really good card in this deck.
Exactly. The thing is, with this deck, there aren't really any dead pieces. Like, the only reason a card would not work, like, not be a good thing to have in your hand, is if you don't have the mana for it. And we have literally, like, 23 pieces of ramp in this deck, so that's not going to be too big of an issue for us.
So why do we have that much ramp?
Why do we have that much ramp? In part because there is so much ramp in colorless. Like, you cannot like avoid it. Like, there's just so many good pieces of ramp. Second of all, some of that ramp is like doubling as other things. Like, we have Walking Atlas, which you can tap and put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, which is another activated ability. That's going to come up a lot. Like, a lot of these like creatures that have like abilities that are good on their own just are better because we have them underneath Martin as a commander. And I'm just gonna say this because this is the way I built the deck. I think that Marvin is a really interesting commander, and you can do a lot of things with him within a lot of different budgets. And depending upon how much you're willing to put into it, I say, like, just anything can be good with Marvin as long as it's colorless and has an activated ability.
Genuinely, Marvin and a ham sandwich. Like,
exactly. Like, I anyone watching this video, I recommend playing around with Marvin. Do a little bit of deck building on your own, but I think that a lot of the cards in this deck are very interesting to put with him and would be very effective in the deck. So that's just my little 2 cents.
Fair. Out of curiosity, just because you said it, how much does this deck cost?
The build that I have is about $219. However, a good portion of that is stuff that is not necessary for the deck.
And I mean, 300 for a commander deck just really means $3 per card.
Pretty much, yeah. And on average, you can like swap stuff out until you're able to buy different like versions of the card, or even like different cards that are like a little bit more money but do like slightly better things. Like, you really can't go wrong with swapping out a couple of cards and then taking the deck's price down to like 150 or something.
Yeah, I honestly bet this deck could be like pure budget and be $50 if you really tried.
Oh, 100%. I have no doubt. I just put in stuff that I thought would be really good with the commander and I thought would be interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
Speaking of some interesting things to talk about, I think Ulamog's Dreadsire is a really interesting card in combination with I think it's Voltaic Construct, because Ulamog's Dreadsire, and this is not infinite by any means, but if you have some mana, you can get a bunch of 10/10 Eldrazi's. Because Ulamog's Dreadsire says tap, create a 10/10 Eldrazi creature token, and Voltaic Construct says tap 2 an untapped target artifact creature. That's Marvin. Marvin has both of those things on him. So, like I said, Marvin goes infinite with everything.
But that's not necessarily what we want to do, you know?
No, I think that the other win con being Voltron is just as effective, because you have things like Giggling Skitter Spike, which gives Marvin the option to become monstrous. I think Obtruse Archaic is one of like the key cards that everyone wants in this deck, because it copies your activated abilities.
And I just want to point out, not everyone sees this card, and so it's only $1.
Exactly. It's like the thing is with this deck, so many cards are just not much money because they're mediocre in other decks. I think that a lot of the things that just keep Marvin alive, namely Patchwork Gnomes, discard a card, regenerate Patchwork Gnomes, Amaranthine Wall, tap 2, Amaranthine Wall gets indestructible until end of turn. Like that kind of stuff, plus like a Rogue's Passage, are going to keep Marvin resilient and unblockable, and so you're going to have a really reliable source of commander damage.
It's always, always nice to see an unblockable Voltron.
Oh, I know, right? And Rogue's Passage is just like, it's always going to be an option, regardless of what commander deck you're playing. I don't play a lot of Voltron, but Rogue's Passage is like the best card I think you can put into a Voltron deck. And it's a land. One of the coolest cards that I don't have it in the deck, but it's on the maybe board for Voltron, is Phyrexian Devourer. And we don't have to worry about a lot of the stuff that's on Phyrexian Devourer, but its activated ability is pay 0, remove the top card of your library from the game to put +X/+X counter on Phyrexian Devourer, where X is that card's casting cost. We have a significant number of like cards that's average mana value is 8+. Like that's a really quick way to get Marvin massive.
Well, at the same time that you have 8+, you also have a fair amount of like 2s and 3s.
That's true, but we have stuff like, I don't know, what is it? There's some effects that allow us to scry, like.
Is it a land?
Well, Kozilek's Command is a pretty decent one. The printing that I have of it up here is a foil one, so it's a little bit more expensive. But on average, it's about $11. But it is another good mana sink for our infinite mana, because it'll just give us a bunch of Eldrazi spawn that we can bank for later turns if we want to do something else.
You know, but you brought up a good point. What good things can we put into with the infinite mana?
Ooh, I'm so glad you asked. Steel Hellkite is a pretty decent one for our
Oh Jesus.
Yeah. Steel Hellkite, Walking Ballista, as we've already discussed. There's Scarecrow, which allows you to, if you have something that lets you untap, you can just return an artifact creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Honestly, the amount of mana sinks that we have really does depend upon what we're trying to do, but primarily the mana sinks are going to be putting +1/+1 counters, +1/+1 counters, or like temporary +1/+0s onto Marvin, where that's primarily where our mana sinks lie. But all of like the different activated abilities that we have a lot of different effects. Like we could do Soul of New Phyrexia, which gives our permanents indestructible until end of turn.
That's a crazy one. I just want to say.
I know, right?
Like 5 mana, give everything indestructible. That can mean Marvin doesn't die in combat. That could mean Marvin doesn't die to a board wipe.
Everything doesn't die to a board wipe. And that's like the other cool thing is that this deck doesn't require Marvin to be an effective deck. Like, Marvin is like a big piece, and at some point, with all of the mana that we're going to be getting, Marvin's going to come back into play, and we're going to be able to like combo off or Voltron with him. He's really important for finishing the game, but he's not necessary for us to stand our own in combat.
And I feel like that's always a good sign of a good commander deck.
I know, right? Because a lot of decks don't really stand on their own without. Oh my god, stand on their own. Sorry, my pop filter fell off of my mic.
Oh shit.
That explains it. Okay, you suddenly just had a different quality of audio, and I was just not ready for that.
Yeah, no. But the commander deck that is able to stand on its own without its commander is going to be so much more reliable and effective at dealing with threats.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone's gonna want to destroy Marvin, let's be honest.
Oh gosh, as soon as you get like 2 or 3 cards like Endbringer that has like a bunch of different activated abilities out on the battlefield, stuff that protects him, like Patchwork Gnomes or Amaranthine Wall. Like, if Amaranthine Wall's on the stack, you can bet your ass that there's going to be a, like, at least, like, a destroy spell coming towards Marvin.
Oh, yeah.
Because the ability to just give your commander indestructible for 2 mana is kind of crazy.
And that's why you got them Swivel Boots and Lightning Greaves.
Ooh, yeah, the amount of protection that we have in this deck is pretty crazy. We also have stuff like Crypto Thrall that gives our artifact creatures hexproof, excuse me. Eldritch Immunity that is basically just like, it has Overload for 5, but 1 mana, target creature gains protection from each color until end of turn. Like,
and for 1 colorless, that is a really good instant.
For 1 colorless or 5 colorless, that gives it to all of your creatures.
I think everything about that card is worthwhile.
I know, and for $5, like, that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with this deck, and it's hard to put them all into like coherent thought because it's Marvin. Like, let's be real here.
Okay, I was thinking about something, and that is Luxior.
Yeah.
Kiata's Gift with any of the Ugins.
Ooh, hold on. Where's Luxior Kiata's Gift? Ooh. Oh my god, you're so right.
Yeah, so in case anyone doesn't know, Luxior Kiata's Gift is 1 colorless mana, or 1 of any mana, for a legendary artifact equipment that says, equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it. Equipped creature isn't a planewalker, and is a creature in addition to its other types. Loyalty abilities can still be activated. And to equip to a planeswalker is 1 mana. To equip to anything.
That and an Ugin the Ineffable.
It'd be so funny. You have 2 Ugins.
Abilities.
Like,
oh my god.
Like, I know Marvin would start with 0 loyalty counters, but you can add 1 instantly.
You can add loyalty counters, yeah.
2 planeswalkers, because it doesn't copy the spell, so it gets around the legendary rule.
Yeah, no, Marvin still has his own name. He just has the activated abilities of these other creatures and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I know this is like stupid to bring up, but you know what's one thing that I think is going to be funny to ever see possibly happen?
What's up?
So Ugin obviously makes colorless spells cost 2 less to cast, and your commander is only 2 mana. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's just the idea of getting like 6 mana out really early on and then just free casting your commander.
No, the part that makes it funnier to me, all right, I need you to understand. You have Vexing Bauble.
Oh no. Yeah, that would do it.
So if you don't know what Vexing Bauble does,
you counter your own commander.
whenever a player casts a spell, and if no mana was spent to cast it, you just counter the spell. And so you just counter your own stuff, and I just think that's hilarious.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's so gross, and I love it.
Because so many of your spells would actually be countered, because you have a lot of ramp in here.
So, Vexing Bauble's more situational, but I feel like it's a nice thing to have in the deck just in case you go against some funky matchups. Like, I don't know, Cascade, which is very common nowadays, just in every deck.
Yeah,
Speaking of Rise of the Eldrazi, that's just like a crazy utility card across the board. Like, if you have that mana, like, end game, you're just going to get rid of the biggest thing on the board that you don't like. You're going to draw 4 cards and take an extra turn after that one. That's good regardless what deck you're in, but it's easier to deal with or easier to get because of this deck's like sheer ability to ramp.
Another card that I love in this deck, and of course I love in every single colorless deck, is All Is Dust.
Oh, the classic.
It's 7 mana for tribal and sorcery, Eldrazi, and it just says each player sacrifices all permanents they control that are 1 or more colors.
Keep in mind, lands are colorless. Their lands are going to be fine. But oh my god, it gets rid of every other thing that they have. And you keep all your stuff because none of your stuff has any color to it.
Yup.
True.
It's not a one-sided board wipe, but it's everyone else-sided board wipe.
Exactly. Another like piece that I think is really good because this deck is colorless is Glaring Fleshraker, which is not only like a token generator, but it is also a pinger. Glaring Fleshraker. I cannot say that word, Fleshraker.
It's kind of hard.
My mouth doesn't want to make that sound. But it's 2 and a colorless for a 2/2 Eldrazi drone that says whenever you cast a colorless spell, not even just creature, spell, you create a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature, add 1 colorless. And then it also has whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, Glaring Fleshraker, I got it that time, deals 1 damage to each opponent. You get that out early game, every single spell you're going to be casting, regardless, is going to be making you a little guy, and that little guy entering is also going to trigger Glaring Fleshraker and dealing damage to your opponent. So every spell that you cast is going to ping and get you a piece of mana.
Which is insane.
Which is crazy.
Like, I don't know why this card is less than $1.
It's ridiculous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You can't go wrong with getting that guy out. Like I said, there's no cards except maybe Vexing Bauble that are going to be like dead in your hand during the game.
Vexing Bauble.
Vexing Bauble. And even then, if you cast it and you don't want it, you can tap 1, tap it, sacrifice it, and draw a card. Like, then it's a cantrip.
True. That's at least the one nice thing about Vexing Baubles. You can get rid of it at any time.
Yeah, it's a really easy thing to like replace in your hand if you don't want it. But also with stuff going to the graveyard, like this one card I feel like is a really good insurance piece for Marvin, and that's Mere Welder that has imprint, tap to exile target artifact card from a graveyard, and then it has all activated abilities of all cards exiled with it.
It's another Marvin.
It's kind of another Marvin. It adds a little bit of redundancy to Marvin, but it can't really deal commander damage, and it does exile the cards, but if they're already gone, if we don't really have like our Scrap Trawler or Scarecrow out, it doesn't really matter.
True.
Mm-hmm. Also, another piece that is in this deck for Voltron, which I forgot to mention, is Eldrazi Conscription, which like
a classic.
It shouldn't not be in any colorless deck, regardless of whether or not you're trying to do Voltron. It's just that good.
It's one of the best auras that anyone can run.
No, genuinely. If something happens and an ability is put onto the stack, you can just put another ability on the stack with him, Like, there's no like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but like you just don't really have to worry about losing priority with Marvin.
Yeah,
I might be talking gibberish there, but
no. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
like
there's...
it's kind of nice to see a commander that isn't doing something absolutely insane or stacksy. That is actually kind of holding priority when they need to.
Exactly. Like, there's so many different things that if you have it on the battlefield with Marvin, you can do a lot of different, like, you have options. You're not ever not doing something. And that's why I think that Unwinding Clock, even though it is a lot of money, or comparatively a lot of money to some of the other cards in the deck, is a decently worthwhile card to put in the deck, because a decent amount of our ramp is just artifacts. A decent amount of the cards in the deck are just artifacts. So regardless of what you're like getting out of it with like your money and stuff, you're going to be doing stuff on every turn with all of the things that you get with Marvin. Like, Marvin's activated abilities are on an artifact, so that means that stuff like Kozilek's Channeler, Kozilek, Ulamog's Dreadsire, Glaring, like all of the activated abilities that are on artifacts are still activatable on other turns.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always cool to... I don't know. It's always cool to activate something once and then be able to do it on everyone else's turn.
But there's just so much that you can do with this deck, and I implore the listener to explore the options with Marvin. I'm sure, absolutely positive, there's stuff that I didn't catch because I basically theory crafted this deck in my head for 2 weeks and then assembled it this morning. Like, there's so many more options that you can do with Marvin that I probably haven't even conceived. And I implore you to do some concept concept searching on your own.
Or more than 0 colors, actually.
Yeah.
Are you telling me colorless is not a color? What?
What?
What? No way.
Discourse and Magic. That's crazy.
Then why do I have a land specifically tied to it?
Oh my god.
Man, what a waste of time.
Speaking of lands, though, that does remind me, Tyrite Sanctum is another really good way to protect Marvin. Because you can just turn him into a god and then give him an indestructible counter.
I mean, when you put it
Marvin,
like that, yeah.
Murderous Mimic, the god.
The god. God of, what kind of god would he be? I feel like God of Toys.
Yeah, god of toys. God of activated abilities.
God of Murderous Mimics.
Yeah, isn't it obvious?
I mean, no.
God of dolls.
God of dolls.
God of bears?
True.
God of... He's a bear god. Holy fuck.
You just gotta think about it. He's a bear after all.
The first
We've established this.
Legendary colorless bear we've ever seen.
You know, they're finally getting bear tribals.
Colorless bear god. Colorless bear god.
I'm so glad they finally understand what we want. More bear tribal.
Finally, Wizards is listening to its people.
Took them long enough.
There's some cards that seem a little out of place, but honestly, not enough to actually be concerned.
I think there's a lot of stuff that could be tweaked. Like, I think some of the stuff that taps for colors is not 100% necessary. There's a lot of things that I feel like could be tweaked about the deck. It really was just like a concept that I thought about.
You would think.
You would. But yeah. But that's Marvin, the Murderous Mimic.
Yeah. I think that is it.
Yeah.
Trying to think of how to outro this without going crazy.
Right there. No. Right where he just was. That's where he outros it. They're not hearing any of this. It's already been cut. Right where you said, I don't know where to outro this to not go. Great. You just outro. We just cut it.
We cut to
right
music.
There.
We end. Oh, no, we just end the video right there.
Yeah, straight up. End the video. Play next.
While he's still talking, we just cut it out. We cut it.
Like as you're finishing the sentence.
Now I can't tell if it would be funnier to include all of that or to just cut it.
I mean, what I can do is add beforehand. Subscribe and like.
Yeah. Do it, you nerd.
Or don't.
We can't control you.
But it'd be cool, pretty cool if you did.
We'd like you more.
I don't know who you are. I can't like you. I don't know who you are.
I think I like you more if you subscribe to us.
I'll like you the same way either way because what are you doing stalking me? Get out of here.
Yeah. You really should stop stalking. We've talked about this.
Me when it's stalking time.
Me when it's stalking season.
Christmas. All right.
That is stalking season.
Okay, cool.
You pulled the intro already, right? Right, Parker? It's done.
Put a bow on it, ship it out. We got it.
What did you say, Jack?
Yeah, we got it.
On today's episode.
This is going on for far too long.
We have a post-credit scene that lasts for the entire, doubles the episode length.
It's just this. It's just this.
It's
just like
us talking about different ways we could end it.
It's just us deciding how we should end this.
Oh God, I love it.
All right.
You would love it.
I would.
Yeah, you're make loving it tonight.